Welcome to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Coach Myrna Young. Now, and today we want to talk on the topic, the secret to living an abundant life. Have you wondered how someone can be born with nothing, live in abject poverty, have nothing to eat, sometimes homeless, and in a few years they become a millionaire? There are more stories of these people than rich kids with trust funds. Let me drop a few names for you. Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Neil Donald Walsh. Neil went from living on the street for 2 years, homeless, to writing the book Conversations with God and becoming a millionaire. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Les Brown. And there are hundreds more of what we would call rags to riches story. So what do all these people have in common? They focused their energy and attention on what they wanted and not their current circumstances. So as I mentioned today, we want to talk on the topic, the secret to living an abundant life. And sitting in the co-host chair today is registered social worker and mental health therapist, Ms. Arifa Yusuf Mortley. Welcome, Arifa, to episode number 2. Thank you for collaborating with me. I'm really enjoying our conversation, so welcome.
Likewise. Thank you for having me again, Myrna.
You are very welcome. All right. Now, I want to start off today's episode with a story. It's a very powerful story and one that I did not know until I was researching this topic. A young boy was born into poverty in a run-down section of San Francisco. This young boy became a fan of football legend Jim Brown, then the running back of the Cleveland Browns. Even though this young boy was crippled by rickets from malnutrition, he dreamed of one day becoming a star running back like his hero, Jim Brown. Since he had no money to pay to see his hero play, he would wait outside the stadium for the maintenance crew to open up the gates in the fourth quarter, and he would hobble on his crooked legs into the stadium to watch the balance of the game. At age 13, he walked into an ice cream parlor one day after the 49ers game against the Browns and came face to face with his idol, Jim Brown. He went up to him and he said, "Mr. Brown, I am your biggest fan. I know every record you've ever set, every touchdown you've ever scored. But Mr. Brown, one day I'm going to break every one of your records." Jim Brown smiled and said, "That's great, kid. What's your name?" The young boy smiled and said, "Orenthal James Simpson, but my friends call me OJ." I get chills reading that. So beautiful. O.J. Simpson did indeed go on to break all of Jim Brown's records, proving that whatever you water will grow, and that energy goes where attention flows. So, Arifa, let's get you involved in this conversation. Mm-hmm. What is your experience as a counselor with youth transforming their lives from nothing to something? And what do you think of that story when you hear it with O.J. Simpson?
Well, first off, I think the story is very powerful in terms of, obviously sharing his lived experiences with adversity and, having a mindset from an early age and being able to meet his mentor, the person that he looked up to say, like, this is ideally, a person that I admire, and they've set a high goal, but I feel within myself that I can do the same thing, and I can even surpass that person's that goal. And then for him to be able to take that, that feeling and that goal within himself and visualize it, and then actually work towards making it happen. And I feel that's the same even with me working with young people. Often when you're in your situation, sometimes you feel stuck, but then if you take the moment to look at it and be like, well, if I feel like this is the worst situation for me, the only way to go is up from here, rather than thinking I'm going to go further away from it. But then it's also looking at, like, how do I get there? And if you have that within yourself to actually, one, reflect on your situation, but then look at your strengths and look at how do I use those strengths, or how do I use those resources around me to get where I need to go, then you can definitely work towards transforming your life. I know I have a story of a young person, and I know he had been referred to me by another worker. And that young person was always in and out of incarceration. I was working on a peer support project. I was just piloting it and wanting to work with young people to share their lived experiences and the learnings from it to other young people. And he came in very distant, very stuck in just like his situation, and the fact of thinking it wasn't going to get better because he was awaiting trial for a new charge. And while he was working in the program, he developed a lot of skills. He learned to tell his story. He learned to self-reflect on some of his challenges. He learned to work on tasks and complete tasks, develop relationships, connect to resources. And during that process, there was a day where he connected with a young person. And that young person said, your story has changed the way I look at my life. And that person said, you're like a leader. I really feel you have more to offer, this world, because you're offering a lot to me. And he came to me one day and he said, that young person that came to him and said that, it really inspired him, because even though he's doing the work, sometimes you sit back and you don't really see yourself as you can go further. You just see yourself for where you are. And he talked to me about his being in prison in the past and his daughters visiting him, and he felt very embarrassed. He was very hurt by it. And through going through the program and his children seeing him in a different light and seeing them smile, and it was really exciting him about his potential, and letting his daughters know that they had the potential to do things outside of their comfort zone. And he later on went on to, he graduated out of the program. He got a job in trades work, which pays very well, very well. And even though he had to end up going and serving his time, when he came back out, because he had developed that strong relationship with his employer, he actually got rehired from the same place, and now he's a supervisor.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's making very good money. He moved his kids out of the community in which they lived and into a community in which he never thought he could move himself into. And it just shows that sometimes just looking at your situation, and then somebody even just looking at you to say, hey, you know what, I feel you could do more. But actually taking the steps to say, acknowledge, one, maybe I can do more. But then two, taking steps to actually take those skills and those strengths that you have and to do something with it. It's really powerful, and it's powerful to see what OJ was able to do, but it's also powerful to see what this young man was able to do even while having a record and still being able to make something with himself and for his kids.
Well, that's a beautiful opposite kind of a story. And what I like about that is that it to me, it goes through the whole gamut. Like if you're going to have a bell, you can go from one end of the extreme, and then you go to the other end. And what OJ's story, what OJ's story actually represents is that, you can have physical limitations. In fact, I I was listening to this very powerful podcast this morning, and they were talking about nutrition. It's actually not a podcast. It's um, a symposium where they have a lot of guests come on and talk, and the topic was nutrition. But there's this lady a doctor, in fact, that developed MS when she was 23 years old. And, the physical in front of you with MS, walking with a cane and, all the pain and everything to do with it, and it's a progressive disease that gets worse and worse because it's neurological. And talk about the fact that she ended up running marathons. So what that basically says is that the mind, which is why I chose the topic, transform your mind to transform your life, because anything you can do once you put your mind to it, you can visualize it and you can bring it into your experience if you put your mind to it. And my first introduction to that topic really was, I don't know how many of our listeners or you are familiar with the guy that was Superman. I don't remember his name right now, but he was paralyzed because he fell off of a horse. And I read his book, his biography, and he talked about when he would sit in front of his house every day and tell his body to heal. And now there's all kinds of research on that where you can heal your body with your mind, and that's basically, he went better. At first all he can do is blow into a straw, and later he tried to regenerate his with stem cell research and all that kind of stuff. But what OJ did was he didn't look at the fact that he had wrinkles and he had bow legs and he was physically deformed. He said, "This is my hero, and I am going to be like him." But I like the way you put it. He just didn't say, "I want to be a running back." He actually wanted to be better. So, that's an amazing thing to do. And I will tell you that most of the people that set these grand goals and do something about it, I have not read OJ's biography, but I'm almost sure that if we go into the story, we'll hear that, he did something. He would maybe signed up for Little League or whatever, or went and practiced, went and played and got up in the middle of the night and ran or whatever. But there's always actions that you have to do in order to cement this goal in your mind. Now, when we talk about your guy, right, and that was, that's to me, that's what I'm saying. It's like a bell curve, and he's at the other end of the spectrum because, he didn't get caught up into the system. Because what the system does is that it breaks you down. It lets you think that you're worthless, that you're no good, that nothing would ever become of you. And, these kids start to buy into that, right? They go to jail, his children are seeing him, he's embarrassed, he can't support them, he can't provide for them, right? But then somebody saw something in him and called him a leader. And that was the spark for him to think, well, you know what? I am a leader. I could be a leader. So it's a totally different, emotional thing, and I like that because it just takes one little spark, whether it's somebody that you look up to, and which is one of the reasons teachers always ask the kids for heroes, because that is usually how we start setting goals, I remember when I was a young girl and I wanted to be, I didn't have too big a dream. I wanted to be a flight attendant because I saw them as pretty. And I wanted to be pretty, but it's normally you see something that you like and you want to be like that. So, yeah, any rebuttal on that?
Well, no, I was just thinking about the the flight attendants, and I was like, I know when I look at them, I admire them because I always grew up looking at them like, wow, this is like, I like the uniform. And the fact that they didn't have to sit in the seat, they could walk around. I was impressed. I was impressed by that as a young person.
Yeah. Well, no, I think because I didn't go into my plane until I was 17 when I left Guyana and came to Canada. But I think I might have saw a picture somewhere, and they're all pretty, and you're right. They're dressed up in the uniform. I didn't even think about the fact that they get to fly free. I just
they're in a position of power.
They're always pretty. And that was basically, when you're growing up, you always want to be considered pretty. And, that was my thing for the longest while. Very vain. So,
I know that's like a whole nother topic for another day. Society norms.
Yeah, that's true. We got to talk on that at some point in time. Yeah, because that's basically what the young girls now are, evaluating themselves by. I did the same thing when I was younger. I want to be pretty. So,
which is common. It's very common, right? I think all of us go through that phase, and some of us still go through that phase.
Yeah, you're right. It took me a while to get out of that phase. All right. So that was, that was a great start, and we set the tone with 2 stories, and so we're going to take our first break, and then we come back. We're going to dive deeper into the topic of how you transform nothing into something. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. As a gift to my radio and podcast audience, I want to give you a free copy of my book, Out of the Snares, a story of hope and encouragement. My purpose in writing this book was to share with my readers the power of intention as the energy in my life. This book is my testimony that who you seek is seeking you. All my life, I've been called lucky. But you know what? There's no such thing as luck. Just positive energy and preparation. As women, we sometimes fail because we are always working. But we're not working on our lives. Instead, we are working in our lives. To succeed, your commitment to your own personal growth must parallel your commitment to building remarkable lives for yourself and your children. After you read my book and become inspired by my story of success after starting out with nothing in a third world country, I want to help you get off the starting block with the most remarkable coaching offer ever made. 4 45-minute coaching sessions for only $100. If you're interested in doing something remarkable with your life and escape the snares of failure by moving your dreams from your head and into your hands, then head over to www.myrnayounghelps.com. That is MYRNAYOUNG helps.com. Download your free book and purchase my coaching package. You will never have a better chance to invest in you. I believe that you are worth it. Don't you? Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Coach Myrna Young, and we're having a discussion today on the topic, how to live an abundant life. In the co-host chair is registered social worker and mental health therapist, Miss Aretha Yusuf Mortley. I'm almost calling you Aretha.
Aretha, like Aretha Franklin.
I know, right?
I can't sing like that. But I'll take the compliment.
Yeah, I know, right? Yes, it's pretty close. Yes, all right. So, Aretha, so we talked about, that youth that you helped to transform his life, and change his life around. Got a good job. Moved his family out of, he didn't say the projects, but let's say, we're going to use the word the projects, because, we want to give it some bang. So, other than the person that said to him, I think you're a leader, I'm really inspired by your story. How did you counsel him, and tell me some of the things that you talked to him about and encouraged him to do?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things was focusing on like a strength-based assessment. So what that is, it's a design of an assessment where you help people recognize their strengths, their skills, abilities, and the things that they're good at doing. So that was the first thing, was just kind of doing an assessment with him. Well, what are things that you are aware of that you're good at? And sometimes young people, it's challenging for them to figure that out. But when the young person said, hey, like, you're a leader, it was like breaking down, well, what kind of leadership skills do you have?
Got you.
And then we looked at the strength-based approach, which is like you take a specific method. It's a specific method of working and resolving challenges experienced by the engaged person, so that would be him. And it does not attempt to ignore the problems and difficulties, but rather what we were doing was attempting to identify the positive basis of his resources and his strengths that would allow the basis to address the challenges that were resulting from certain problems. Mm-hmm. And then from that, the strengths of him, the strengths that he was able to determine, that's when we came up with ideas about how to bring those desired changes that he wanted. So what we did was we basically made a list. We sat down, we made a list, and he listed all the things he was good at. Some of the things that, he profited from illegally, he mentioned, but there's skill sets in that, right? Like there's marketing, there's figuring out your demographic. There's the leadership of acquiring a team to help you complete a goal. So we really just took all of that but broke it down for him and said, these are all the skills that derived from what you were doing. And these skills are transferable into other things. So one of the stuff, he was good with his hands, as an example. So it was looking at, well, what fields are available that use their hands, that you have an interest in. And then he listed construction, because he knows, like he was saying, that construction, usually people make really good money. He listed plumbing, engineering, so a lot of trades. Then it was looking at,
and he ended up in a trade too.
And he ended up in a trade. So once he was able to determine, okay, these are my skills, and these are possible jobs that I have an interest in and meet my needs of, making the type of money that I would really like to be able to take care of my family. Then it was just connecting him to those resources. Like, do you have any family or friends that work in the industry? And he had like a friend that his uncle owned like a body shop, like an auto body shop. So that was like one of the things that was listed. Then he said he knew somebody who was working at UPS. So he just we just made a resource list of who do you know, where do they work, what is the benefits of where they work? Is that something you think that would interest you? What steps would you have to take to apply, or what skills would you have to go and gain in order to be able to go after that work? And so once he was able to do that, then he became a little bit more hopeful. He started to approach the problems with a mindset and a strategy to set for his success. And then he was able to begin to start accomplishing some of those goals, which were leading to what he really wanted, which was a job in the trades, but then also to move up in the trades to become a supervisor or a manager. And so everything he really outlined, he actually was able to do.
That's awesome. Well, I love that. They say in coaching that we should always give, our clients a step-by-step plan. And that's basically why I asked the question, because somebody that's listening is able to, understand the steps. And I love that. And, when I talk about my, the coaching in a few minutes, you will see that I always start off with the desire. So in your client's case, his desire was to have a job, because it's a very big thing when you have a record to have a job. It's because everybody's doing background checks, and one of the reasons a lot of the young men and women keep going back into the illegal trade or back into prison is because nobody would hire them, and they have to revert back to that. So getting a job right, exactly. So getting a job was top on his list. So I love the fact that you talked to him about the circle of influence of who do you know that can help you get a job, because that's, again, even people that don't have a criminal record, there's so many people looking for jobs these days that it's always who you know. So I like that. And okay, so let's say that your friend is working at, I don't know, Canadian Tire, something like that, a mechanic. You didn't mention mechanic, but you said working with hands. The only thing I can remember is Canadian Tire. But let's say somebody's working there and you want to become a mechanic, and you asked him, what steps do you have in order to apply for the job? So I like that. So yeah, I love the breaking down of the skills. So I wrote them down. So I can repeat it, so that, list of things that he's good at, right, including the illegal stuff. And I also love that, because I remember when, my pastor had a very high regard for the drug dealers on the corner of the street, because he said they ran a good business. And he also said that, not that nobody's condoning that, but that skill set, you're right, is transferable. He brought a lot of them into the church, converted them, and they can use those skills because it's marketing, it's running a business. It is transferable. So I like the fact that you mentioned that, right?
Mm-hmm. And I also call them bright spots.
What was that? What was that?
I also call them bright spots. It's recognizing your bright spots, and how do you use those bright spots?
Yeah. Listen, it's running a business. It's it's illegal, but some people do a very good business. And you mentioned that you're right. You've got employers. You got teams. I don't know anything about the business, but, a successful, illegal person is running a good business. And then you have to keep out of the way of the cops.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot. You have to evaluate your stream of money. There's so much mathematics involved in that. You got to budget. You got to reinvest.
Right.
There's so many transferable skills. Just alone, if they really sit back and think about it, all of these skills are business skills.
Yes. You're an entrepreneur. Yeah, like I said, my pastor mentioned that a long time ago, and this was, early 2000, when he was talking about, bring them off the streets and bring them into, a job, or help them, have them, do something in the church with those same type of skills. So I love that. Yeah, so finding out what you're good at, including the stuff that maybe you're ashamed of or it's illegal. What steps you need what you need to do to apply, and then go do it, because that's the skill that that's what you're looking for. Now, we got right into our topic today, but I for those of you who are new listeners, I do want to introduce my co-host, Aretha. So let me give you a little bit of information on Aretha before I go on to talk about what I do as a life coach, to help people to live their a life of their dreams, an abundant life. So Aretha is the founder and program director of Lifted by Purpose, a company that provides a diverse range of services, including workshops or programs designed to help the youth in Toronto, Canada, deal with mental health issues and make positive changes in their lives, usually after issues with the criminal justice system. Aretha is a registered social worker, and she specializes in mental health issues, and she has been a social worker for over 15 years. She just started working with the prison system to help inmates live fulfilling lives when released from prison. So that's just some information on, why she is, experienced enough to, or qualified is the word I'm looking for, qualified to comment on the mental health issues. And of course, I am a certified life coach. So now, how do I, coach my clients to have hope? I want to start off by saying that I am a follower of Esther Hicks and the Consciousness of Abraham. For those of you who don't know who that is, these are beings that talk through Esther Hicks in their collective consciousness. And they talk about energy and vibration and the law of attraction and anything to do with, consciousness and setting the intention, right? So I believe that the universe responds to whatever you focus your attention on. So you could be laying in bed with a broken body or in a broken relationship, and you can actually shift your reality to where you want to be, and that would become your new point of attraction. The bad thing about it is that most of us focus on what we don't have. And when you focus on what you don't have, and I know it's very hard not to, because that's what you see. We're physical beings. That's what's in front of us. That's what we can touch. But when you focus on what you don't have, you are in fact activating it to continue in your life. Example, if you focus on the lack of money, that's what you will continue to have, a lack of money. If you focus on the lack of a man or a relationship, that's what you will continue to have, lack. So the trick is to take your imagination and let it run. We're all born with an imagination. As children, we were very good at imagination. And then as we got older, we kept getting stuck on reality. But utilize your imagination and withdraw your attention from the negative vibration of your current situation and dream. Make it up. You see, your brain can't tell the difference between what's real or what's imagined. So that's basically why the movie The Secret was so powerful, and it infused the whole world on this visioning, because they say that if you can see it in your head, you can hold it in your hand, right? It all starts there, and it starts with the desire. Aretha just talked about this guy that has a desire to get a job, right? And everything he did was to that desire, right? O.J. Simpson desired to become a running back, and not just an ordinary running back. He wanted to be the best, which is why he wanted to break the record of the best. That's how you know that you're the best, when you break records. Every day they're talking about LeBron James, and he wants to be the best. He wants to be called the greatest. So what has he got to do? He's got to break the records of the greatest, else he'll always be second best or third best or fifth best or whatever they bring you, whatever they rank you by. but that's how you become the best. You break the record of the best. So that's your desire, and that's basically what you put in front of you, and that's where you put your attention to, and that's basically how you attract it to you. So we're going to take our second break, and when we come back, then I'm going to give you some concrete steps, and then, Arifa will tell you basically, some more things that she helps her clients do, and then we're going to find out how you can get in touch with Arifa if you wanted to, if you have a youth that needs her help. So don't go anywhere. We're right back. As a gift to my radio and podcast audience, I want to give you a free copy of my book, Out of the Snares, a story of hope and encouragement. My purpose in writing this book was to share with my readers the power of intention as the energy in my life. This book is my testimony that who you seek is seeking you. All my life, I've been called lucky. But you know what? There's no such thing as luck. Just positive energy and preparation. As women, we sometimes fail because we are always working. But we're not working on our lives. Instead, we are working in our lives. To succeed, your commitment to your own personal growth must parallel your commitment to building remarkable lives for yourself and your children. After you read my book and become inspired by my story of success after starting out with nothing in a third world country, I want to help you get off the starting block with the most remarkable coaching offer ever made. 4 45-minute coaching sessions for only $100. If you're interested in doing something remarkable with your life and escape the snares of failure by moving your dreams from your head and into your hands, then head over to www.myrnayounghelps.com. That is MYRNAYOUNG helps.com. Download your free book and purchase my coaching package. You will never have a better chance to invest in you. I believe that you're worth it. Don't you? Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio show and podcast. I am Coach Myrna Young, and with me today is registered social worker and mental health counselor, Ms. Arifa Yusuf Mortley, and we are talking on the topic, the secret to living an abundant life regardless of your current circumstances. In the first and second segments, we dissected a couple of cases of people turning their lives around from having nothing, whether it's a physical disability, whether it's being caught up in the system. We can reach out and talk about, the people that are living in India that have, living on the streets or in any one of the poor countries, because that's basically where I'm focusing my energy with this. That's my intention for talking on this topic, because I want to help, minorities, poor, disadvantaged, whether it's youth, women, young adults, anybody that is in what I would call the wilderness, if you're spiritual, and we want to give them hope. We want to give them hope that they can get out of it. And you can get out of it by starting with the mind and envisioning something that's better, and that's the start. And then you do little things, like just little steps, talk to somebody that you know, see who you can get help. You go to, maybe the government services, whatever you can, but you start little by little, and you know they're saying a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. So you take a step. So before I complete, my steps, Arifa, did you have anything to add to, your steps or?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know some of the things that I usually, some of the practices I use with our clients are always reminding them that they're resilient. I know often people feel like they are stuck, they feel overwhelmed, and they can't see through their struggle how they've become resilient. So I always remind them you are a survivor. Regardless of whatever situation, you have found your way to the point of where you are now. So it's recognizing that they are resilient. I also get them to write down what they want. So I know you talked about intentions. I always get clients to write down something that they want to see within their life, whether it's in the present or whether it's in the future, and how that would impact their life if that was to happen. I get them to practice visualization. So I'm a strong believer in visualization as well.
Okay.
I know in sports psychology, they talk about visualization in terms of with athletes, zooming, the sound out, from like fans so that you could like focus on taking that shot, practicing swinging the bat in your head so that you can further the ball when you hit it. So, and there's lots of research around it that's proven it to be effective. If you can visualize it and see it and practice it in your head, the more likely it is to happen for you. So I get clients to visualize, once they write it down, visualize what would it look like if this were to happen? What steps would you need to take? I want them to see themselves where they want to be. So we work around that, but very detailed, like from sitting at a desk to what's on the desk to their certificates on the wall to their succulent plants on the table, right? The cash in their wallet. But we really break it down so that they can visualize it. And then we talk about affirmation, self-talk, like saying things to themselves, motivating themselves. Every day I say you should look up something or a quote, read a line in a book, something that inspires you, something that motivates you. I always say have one of those quotes on hand for yourself. So when you're feeling low or you have those moments where you think you can't push through, you have a go-to quote that says, hey, you know what, I can do it. You know what, I am the person that will get to the end of the journey, like something to say. Vision boards, I love vision boards. I work with a lot of young people. Everybody should be into the arts. Like we talked earlier today about creativity. Creativity is a powerful thing. Just getting in tune with your working your brain muscles, activating what you want, but also pulling that creativity together and putting it somewhere visually that you can always see it. So I like vision boards for that because you can take pictures and images and put them on and look at that and say, these are, this is what I can see myself doing. This is where I could see my future. So I love doing vision boards. And then working towards creating tangible steps to get where they need to be based off of what they wrote down, based off of their vision board. What do we need to do to be able to take the steps to get here? And mindfulness, obviously, focusing in on the present, because as you know, every day, even though you're motivated, it could be you're on the bus and then all of a sudden the bus goes out of service and you're going to be late for work. And so sometimes in those moments we get upset, we get angry, but it's always focusing on the present and saying, you know what, in this moment there's nothing that I can do. I can only work towards, in this moment, what's the next step? Do I need to take an Uber? Do I need to find out when the next bus is coming? Do I need to call work and say I'm going to be late? But in the moment, I can only do what I can. And practicing gratitude is the last one for me. Always acknowledging, for gratitude-wise, like I always say to them, when you go outside, tell me one
That's
thing that
funny.
you
That's
saw
that's one
today.
of my big ones that I'm going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah, I love gratitude. Simple things like when I woke up in the
Yeah.
morning, what was one thing that I saw out of my window today?
Mm-hmm.
What is one thing that inspired me? Just little things, just to take a moment and be mindful of everything around you, but what are you grateful for? And I think
Mm-hmm.
when people can sit in that moment, in the present, but also acknowledge things they might have taken for granted and say, wow, like I did see a hummingbird today. I haven't seen one in a long time. It was beautiful. The sun was shining today. It wasn't raining, and it rained for the whole
Right.
month, and it didn't rain
Right.
today.
Right.
Those are things that you got to remind people to look out for, because there are beautiful moments that happen in the day.
Yes, 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 yes. So that's awesome. Right. Okay. So I love it. I love it when great minds think alike, and we're on the same page, even though we have different forms of therapy. We're saying the same things, which is really amazing. Because you know what, the human spirit is the human spirit, and you can go from it. You can go from all different angles, but there's only one way to create success. And whether yeah, so that's awesome. So now my steps is basically, I started off by saying before we went on the break that use your imagination and pay attention to your vibration. I'm big on energy because I recognize that if you don't have positive energy around you, one, people will not like you. You're not going to be able to go further. You're going to be a drainer and not somebody that lifts someone else up. But also, you're not going to get those things that's, and I talked about Abraham Hicks, we talked about the vortex, there's things that is floating around in your vortex. And if you don't have the right energy, you're not going to attract it to you. So launch your creation into the universe with your desires. Every thought or every accomplishment begins with a desire. You first have to have desire, and then you feed it. Your desire is like the seedling that you plant, right? And it bears, it grows up into a forest or a plant. Think O.J. Simpson. His desire to be like his idol because of somebody that he admires, and he turned that into, I still think that I don't know if anybody has broken his records. He messed up his life a little bit, but he still, got to what he wanted, where he wanted to get to. So, become a pure positive energy. Become like a breath of fresh air. When you walk into a room, you uplift it and you don't detract from it. And the way that you can become pure positive energy is being grateful. There's one time I did gratitude meditation, and you can go on forever and ever and ever about things that you're grateful for. But even if you don't want to be grateful that you can see and you can walk and you can talk, and I as I'm talking, I told you I was listening to this symposium this morning, and this woman said something that it's not my biggest fear, but it's something that I'm conscious about. And she said that if we don't have good nutrition, then we are going to be, spend the last 6 years, because she's talking statistics, spend the last 6 years of your life in a nursing home in a diaper. Now think about that. You know what I mean? And I can think about it because I have an aunt right now that's exactly in that position. She had a stroke. I've known a lot of my family members that have strokes and end up that way. So, you can be so grateful that you can get up and go to the bathroom, that you can, whatever. But, if you want to break it down to, the most minute thing is that you can be grateful that you can feel the warmth of the sun in your skin, and that you can walk in the rain. I love the rain, and it's one of my best things when when I hear the rain, I'm like, oh my God, I have to open the window. I have to go outside. I mean, I love the rain. But think about the person that's in prison who would give anything to feel the sun or walk in the rain. So we all have things, lots of things that we can be grateful for. Lots of things. So practice the gratitude, because what it does is that it affects your vibration. And when you have positive vibration, then you're going to attract positive things and circumstances in your experience. And control where your awareness goes. Because where your awareness goes is where energy flows. Learn the fine art of concentration. Concentrate on what you desire. And concentration is defined as holding your awareness on one thing. Now, I meditate every morning, and I'm working on, concentrating on, my breath, concentrating on what I want out of life, concentrate. And concentration is like a muscle because our mind is very busy. I don't know if you heard the statistic that we have about 60,000 thoughts that go through our head every day. So our mind is very busy. So concentrating is one of the skills that you need to develop. It's one of the muscles that you need to develop. And there's no better way to practice it than, to learn concentration through meditation. So we're almost out of time. So one of the things that Arifa said when she was talking a few minutes ago is that she said she asked her clients to find a quote or something inspiring. I mean, she didn't bring up lyrics, but I know part of her therapy is that she has, some of her clients, look at lyrics and songs and get inspiration from them. But, as a Christian, I get inspiration from, the Bible and scriptures in the Bible, and I get inspiration from quotes and thought leaders, and, because I read, and I'm always constantly improving myself by reading and getting quotes. So one of the ones I want to leave with you is that to answer the question, what is the secret to living an abundant life, is believe, have faith, and persevere. And this is a quote that I want to leave. God said, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and to give you hope. So, anytime that you're feeling that your situation is hopeless, remember that that is now not how God intended. And all you got to do is have faith that things will get better, and you persevere. Because another thing that I say all the time is this too shall pass. Nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary, even your life. So, any closing words, Rifa?
The only closing word that I have is to add on to what you said, because I feel like we're on the same page today.
Yeah, we are.
Yes, we are. As I always say, hope leads to learning goals. It leads to accessing resources which are conducive to growth and to your improvement towards the goals that you have. I also wanted to add that online there is a hope scale. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but there is a research-based hope scale.
Okay.
So I know we always leave resources on the blog, so we can surely put that up. And then if people want to actually go and fill out the questionnaire that a lot of psychologists use as well, then it would be available so that they can actually take a look at that too.
All right. Well, send me the link, and I'll definitely put that on the blog. Explain what that is, because I don't know what that is. What is a hope scale?
So the hope scale literally is a questionnaire. So it basically just talks about, it gives you a bunch of examples of things that maybe you're hopeful about, or you're seeking to improve your life, and you basically scale it. So you tick off the ones that you feel, the questions that you feel apply to you, the statements that you feel apply to you. And then at the end, you tally it up, and it kind of leads towards like where you're at on that hope scale in regards to you actually pursuing your vision or your goals, like how ready you are for that.
Okay, that's good. I'm thinking along the lines of somebody that's hopeless, and they get like a 2 out of a 50 or something. They're in the bottom end. What happens next? Does somebody reach out to them and call them, or is there something that says, hey, you should see someone? What happens after they take this
Well,
scaling test?
definitely. If somebody took the well, usually you do it with a practitioner, but if somebody did it on their own and they took it in, I would always say to take it in to your life coach or take it in to see with your counselor if you were doing it on your own, and then just have a conversation around, I finished the scale, this was the results that I got, and then that person could support you in working through what does that mean? What does it mean for you? What does that mean in terms of like next steps in order to get towards goals that you may have? But it's something for yourself just to kind of have that self-reflection.
Okay.
But it's also something that you could work towards with your life coach or your counselor.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, we are almost out of time, so let me let you know that if you wanted to get in touch with Arifa, Lifted by Purpose is located at 180 Shaw Street, Suite 201 in Toronto. Their phone number is 416-391-5270. And if you wanted to send Arifa an email, do I have it here? What's your email, Arifa?
Arifa, A-R-I, F as in Frank, A-H, at liftedbypurpose.com.
.com. All right, good. Awesome. Yeah, so you can send Arifa an email if you wanted to, sign up for any of her, counseling classes. You want to, stop in and see her, or you have a question. We answer questions. I hope that you're enjoying our new format. This is basically for you, so we'd love to hear from you. You can send me an email at info@myhelps.us, which is info@myhelps.us. I would love for you to post a review on iTunes, or you can leave a comment on my blog. The blog is blog.myhelps.us. And again, you head over to the blog, you can download the audio, you can get a transcript, and you can get a link to Arifa's website and, some of the things that we talked about. So we're going to put on a link to the scale there. Want to remind you to, support us by downloading and subscribing on your favorite podcast player so you don't miss any episodes. You can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Castbox, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and anyone that I might have missed. We're on all of them. So, Arifa, it was a pleasure talking to you. I am so enjoying what we're doing. I think that we are offering, great content for, our listeners that, is not in the place that they want to be in life. And we're giving them hope and encouragement. So I like that.
Mm-hmm. We're also giving them a lot of tools, a lot of resources and tools,
Yes,
to support them, through some of those challenges.
Yes. So thank you very much. So until next week, namaste.